We are live. Welcome to the Agentic AI Summit. Over the next 3 days, we'll dive into what it really takes to make Agentic AI work. And we're really, really excited to kick things off with the new Agentic OS, GTM Business OS. Welcome, Kelly. And we have Amos Joseph joining us in a second. How are you doing?
Good, good. How are you doing? Thanks for having us.
We're really excited. Welcome, Amos.
Hey, Kelly. Hey, Julia. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm excited about this chat. Yeah, I've been awake all night just thinking about it.
Well, hopefully it'll be good. It'll blow your wildest dreams.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it will.
All
To
right.
everyone watching, yeah, you can join the conversation on our Slack and we'll address your question closer to the end of the session. And yeah, 25 minutes. Let's kick things off, Kelly.
All right. Sounds good. Well, I'm Kelly Hopping. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Demandbase. We are thick in the world of using agents and AI throughout our product. And so I got super excited the opportunity to meet Amos Joseph. He's the CEO and founder of Swan AI. And he is kind of blowing off the doors on normal or traditional thinking, I think, right now with his kind of radical vision on really the future of business and really how autonomous companies can achieve $10 million per ARR per employee just by leveraging strategic AI implementation. So right now there's all kinds of AI hype and crazy, but I think this is a very like tactical, manageable, practical, pragmatic approach to thinking about this. So before we go into any questions at all, Amos, like one, did I capture that right? And two, what in the world does that mean?
Yeah, so you captured it perfectly, Kelly. If I could actually take you with me to every call that I have and have you just introduce me, that would be amazing, right? Can we?
Happy
Um,
to.
Yeah, so we believe that the old unicorn playbook is dead. It's over. It's not my first rodeo. I've actually built, scaled, and sold two B2B startups before. Um, Raised funds, built the initial team. Scaled the sales team to 6 to 7 figure enterprise sales, then to acquisition, and what worked 10 years ago, it's not working today, right? And I think there are like two main tailwinds that are happening like in the background. They're really kind of like pushing away that the unicorn playbook. First of all, that the growth at all costs model it's over, right? It's over. And raise big before you have product market fit. Scale to 50 employees before you get to your first $1 million ARR, then try to brute force your way into $10 million ARR. And even if you got there, your entire company is operating on a kind of really sick foundation that is focused on valuation inflation rather than kind of like value creation. Then if you combine it with the another tail, which is like AI broke the equation of scale means growing headcount, right? It's broken. And so you see companies like Lovable or Cursor or Ball who are getting to 1 million, $1.5 million ARR per employee. They're scaling to $20 million ARR with just a 20-person team. You see that these are like different types of companies. They're like operating on a different operating system, right? Like AI native at the core. And so at Swan, we believe that this is kind of like the beginning of a new trend in business, as you just said, Kelly. There's a different operating system on how to run and scale a business. We call it the autonomous business OS. And we're building Swan like that, and I'd love to share the behind the scenes and answer everything that the audience has to ask.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'm gonna just clarify a couple things really quick. What do you think drove? Because I agree with you, we certainly see it. But the growth at all cost mindset just being dead. I mean, obviously we had Silicon Valley bank blow up a few years ago. All of a sudden you saw that those didn't make sense. So do you think the VCs are no longer pouring the money in, or is it that now they don't just care about top line, they also care about bottom line? So efficient growth is really the magic. Like, what is the background behind that?
Yeah, no, you actually mentioned two of the most prominent factors. So, well, one is if you look from the VC perspective, when money pours in, they only care about growth, right? When money is dry, they care about the bottom line, right? And want to see efficiency at the core of the business. And so it doesn't matter to just show growth if you don't have any, operational profit margins at work. It doesn't work anymore. And then from the other side, like from like a macroeconomic perspective, you know, are we getting into a recession? It doesn't really matter if we are or not. We're not getting into another bubble again. It's getting harder for businesses to get capital out there to actually, to get the same amount of output for the same amount of input. So VCs get that pressure from their LPs, from outside, and we see that a lot of trends that are happening in the startup world are driven by VCs that are impacted by macroeconomics. So you see that supply chain kind of like getting up all the way to the founders. And what I believe is that the autonomous business model is really about changing that equation. So it's not about the people who hold the capital anymore. It's about the people who could scale intelligence. And so it kind of shifts the equation, gives more powers to SMBs and to founders to actually operate, less capital heavy businesses and scale further with, a leaner team.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes me think like, I mean, I'm probably older than you, but I remember the days of sort of like bifurcating the market between the kind of traditional companies and the born in the cloud companies. There was this big pivot of those folks that were now like these cloud-based versus these sort of heavy server hosting type companies. They moved to the cloud. Is this the next sort of big pivot as you think about from the like throw bodies at problem mindset before to now actually scale efficiently through this intelligence network that you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, the cloud analogy is a super powerful analogy, but I think there is something different right now. So because like this is a seismic shift. It's not an incremental growth. And the main notion behind it is that we believe that the entire operating system of the business is going to change. So we see it right now, like the first wave of AI technology companies, had very limited creativity. They just
Mhm.
tried to mimic, specific roles and replace them with AI, right? So you had, SDR, so let's do AI SDR, right? You had support, let's do AI support. And we believe that there's a very low glass ceiling for just getting cheap labor with low quality, right? We had these solutions for like decades. You could go to development countries and get cheap SDRs with poor quality. It's not something really new for the world. The innovation won't come from there. What we believe at Swan is that this new technology wave, used properly, is going to change how humans and AI collaborate at the core of the business and will create new functions. So
Mm.
at Swan, we're trying to get to $30 million ARR with just 3 founders. We're not doing that by hiring more AI workers. What we're trying to discover is how will the 100x seller workflow look like? How can we turn one person into the 100x seller? How can we turn the product person on the team to be the 100x product? And how can we turn the engineering leader into the 100x engineer? And so to discover that, basically, you need to reimagine these processes from the bottom up, not just try to replace them, manual work with AI.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I keep hearing this phrase of we're now in sort of the prove it era of AI, right? It used to just be that it was just AI whitewashing across, like you talked about, this sort of early solve some basic need states that you could kind of put automation around. But now it's really in this like add value to my organization, multiply the impact of my sales force, multiply the impact of every single seller. So I'm gonna go back to the basic on that. You mentioned this concept of autonomous business OS, like that being the sort of death of the playbook. What do you mean by building an autonomous business? What does that really mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, first of all, the underlying concept of an autonomous business means that you could scale with intelligence, not with headcount. Okay, so you can increase your output without adding headcount. It's not about anti-hiring. It's not about trying to get to the ultimate scale with just 3 people. Right? It's not about that, but it's about changing the way that your business grows. It requires a deep change in your operating system of your business, what we call the autonomous business OS, and it leans heavily on human AI collaboration. So human empowerment, not human replacement. And Kelly, you mentioned just earlier that AI is at the phase of, show me how it becomes a force multiplier. It's not about replacing. So I don't want more SDRs, so I would hire AI SDRs. I want to have my human tech stack, like my human stack, the folks that are most talented within my team. I want to multiply them. That's what I want to do, basically. I don't want to get just an off-the-shelf model. And so the autonomous business model kind of like assumes that in a world where everyone has AI and it's kind of like native to our entire operations, the only advantage that you have is your human stack, not your tech stack, actually. It's the people that are working within your company and have a unique understanding of the market, has a unique insight into the product, has a unique skill that no one has. And you're looking for ways to amplify these characteristics, not to get an off-the-shelf software that will, rescue you from all your challenges.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love that. I think I always think about AI as people will say, like, do you think it'll replace jobs? I mean, yes, obviously, it will replace a lot of jobs or replace the need for hiring more jobs, maybe that more. But to your point, I always think of it as a sort of revenue accelerator because I can get more out of every person I have versus trying to, like, the ultimate goal, like, not necessarily to have less people, but to get more out of the people I have. So I love that kind of force multiplier concept. Tell me about how Swan fits in this. Are you the creator? Is Swan the creator of all the agents that you're talking about that are automating these workflows? Or are you building an ecosystem of external, internal, and building like a unified network on a shared set of data, full transparency, full alignment across your whole tech stack? How's that working?
Yeah, so first of all, like the autonomous business OS, it's not about just Swan. Okay, we're not trying to
Yeah,
tell
that's what I
everyone
wanted.
you should use Swan for everything that you do in your business. And we actually believe that the future belongs to these autonomous businesses, and they will win because they will use that human AI collaboration at the core. And we look at solutions emerging right now that are powering these types of businesses. So Manny Medina is building Pay that is trying to kind of like nail the billing space in that OS. You have Elias, founder of Agency, trying to nail that customer success part of that OS. So we're starting to see that super category being formed, and these types of companies are built for businesses that are reimagining these processes from the bottom up. They are built for different types of workflows and for people that would imagine it just by using this type of new technology, right? So Swan, the way that it fits, it takes the GTM part of that new OS, right? So Swan, it's we look at not as an AI SDR.
Yeah.
It's actually more like an AI RevOps. It's like an AI GTM engineer. Okay, that's how we think Swan. So people, when they look at Swan, they actually think it's like Lovable for GTM. If you're familiar with Lovable, it's kind of like an engineer that can write an application for you just by prompting it, right? So Swan gives SMBs the superpower to kind of like turn any go-to-market idea into a live experiment in seconds from prompt to pipeline, basically. So what we want to give these SMBs is, to break the barrier that they have between them and their GTM systems so that they could pour all their knowledge of their market, of their buyers, all their unique insights into these live experiments so they can discover the best motion for them. So Swan is a discovery tool. It's actually a tool that enables SMBs to discover the best motion that works for their business and then scale it in a repeatable way so that they could scale with intelligence, not with headcount.
Gotcha. Okay. So you mentioned you just brought up SMBs. I've read articles about you where you talk about the future is SMBs. Like this is the era for SMBs. I don't know if it's the next decade, 2 decades. I don't know how far out we look these days in tech, but what do you mean by that? Is this because of the empowerment that comes now? The technology has caught up to make SMBs to multiply the impact of an SMB to operate and drive the results of a bigger company, but with fewer resources because they're starting from zero.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm a big believer in SMBs. I don't know what about, 2 decades from now, maybe 2 decades from now, we're all, be enslaved by the AI and no, we won't need any businesses. I'm talking about the next 5 years.
Yeah.
But again, I see two, market forces, right now. So one, um, if headcount is not an advantage in an AI world, it's actually a disadvantage because it kind of like creates a much, bloated shift that it's hard to move and adapt. Then enterprise enterprises lose their only advantage over their SMB competitors, which is that they are big, right?
Yeah.
And if, bloat is a disadvantage, then SMBs could actually, capitalize on that, capitalize on this new technology trend, make the shift into being an autonomous business faster, and then capture more market share on behalf of the biggest dogs in their space. So that's like one, trend that we're seeing. And if you actually connected with the other thing, so large language models are not something new. Okay, so AI has been around for 2 decades. It actually existed from the 70s, but from the last 2 decades, companies like Facebook and Uber has been using the latest AI technologies to power their businesses. What we're seeing right now is the democratization of
Mm.
these AI models. What does it mean? It means that businesses that didn't have access to these types of solutions now have. And who are these businesses? Those are SMBs that either didn't have the resources from a budget perspective or the technical resources in-house to actually deploy these models and use them. So the moment that you have for example, an AI GTM engineer that can enable you to use the most advanced AI capabilities within your SMB and turn your processes from the upside down, you get like an unfair advantage. And so we believe that in the next 5 years, the SMB segment will be the hottest segment to actually work with. You see all the VCs investing in B2B enterprise SaaS. So you'll see them running around following the companies that are, heading and working with the SMB segment, actually.
Interesting. Okay. We should have a question come in from the chat. This is from our friend Sean. He said the last 10 years in the SaaS industry, companies have complained about having too many tools. And that's always the number one issue that employees highlight. Maybe it's different at SMB, I don't know. But how do you make sure that these autonomous business OSs don't become just another tool? What is the path in there to
Yeah.
either streamline, replace? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's actually a wonderful question, and it really touches on the core of AI agents. So, the autonomous business OS and AI agents by and large has a wonderful characteristic of not looking at things from a tooling perspective, but looking at things from processes perspective. Okay, so agents, what they do is they consolidate what we had before to use different types of tools to run a specific process. Agents can now take over their shoulder an entire process on their own. What would require, skipping between 8 different tools, you can just do with one. I'll give you an example. So, for example, Swan, shameless plug, of course, yeah, just happened to be. I'll give Swan as an example.
I'd expect nothing less. That's good.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah. Maybe my next example would be demand-based, Kelly, but maybe the
That'll
next
work.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So Swan, for example, takes this notion of reaching out, to website visitors, okay, to first-party intent, and what usually took a lot of different tools to do that for SMBs, right? For SMBs that had a lot of disparate tooling just to run that. So maybe they're using RB2B, which is a new company right now, and they try to push it into Clay to just run these types of enrichments. And from Clay, they try to push it into HeyReach with the LinkedIn automation, and to use a different email sequencing and to push it into HubSpot. All these types of tools. Now Swan actually, consolidate everything. It lives in Slack. You can just chat with it in Slack, and it can take that motion from end to end. You don't need to interact with any other tool. You can just work with Swan directly. Tell it, this is what I want to do with my visitors. This is how I want to reach out to them, etc. It will just take care of that process end to end. And so the future of the autonomous business OS, it's not about less or more tooling, but it's about working on processes of the business. So it's more aligned with how the business operates. And it's not about tooling, it's about processes.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. But one thing, so you talked about LLMs have been around forever, machine learning, demand base is an AI powered tool, same thing. We've been around for a long time. Now AI has become cool, and so now all of a sudden, we have the agents and all the automation built in and all of that. So I get all that, but I feel like the thing that makes demand base and even the products that we partner with great is the data that feeds it. Right. At the end of the day, like AI is only as good as the gift or the garbage that gets fed into it is the gift or the garbage that comes out the other side. So how do you, if you're thinking about processes across the org and you're feeding it, what is the way that, how do we think about the unification of data or the alignment of data across whether it's the tech stack or just through Swan as it touches different parts of the process? Like how do you verify the validity and credibility of the data that's feeding your agents that are impacting every part of your business? Or if you're using multiple AIs, I assume they're all being fed potentially by all different data. And how do you ensure that it's clean?
Definitely, yeah. So that's an interesting point, and it's important to actually look at it from two perspectives. So first of all, I do believe that data is a moat in the AI world, right? And where models gets commoditized and everyone has access to to these models, so data is really kind of like something that could differentiate you from the rest. And at Swan, we made a big bet that we think that first party data is actually the most valuable data that go-to-market teams could possess. And so, if you have it in your CRM, if it's someone coming to your website, if it's just something that and other people don't, then you can take advantage of it in ways that other, your competitors can't, right? So, for example, if it's like closed lost information in your CRM or like call transcripts, or if it's like, website visitors that come to your website or things like that, these types of data points could power unique go-to-market motions that your competitors just can't really run, right? But I think that it's always super important to emphasize the other perspective, which data is useless without a hypothesis, without a POV, without someone actually guiding the AI how to use it. And I see a lot of GTM leaders just looking at these AI solutions to say, what should I do? Okay,
Yeah.
I need the AI to tell me what to do. This is the wrong type of thinking that would lead you to, just buying expensive shelfware that will just sit on your shelf for like a year and will decay, and that's it, basically. And I think that, go-to-market leaders who start become really proactive in thinking about how they should use AI as a tool to amplify their team, to amplify their thinking, to execute, the most, creative go-to-market motions. And so data is a moat and it's a strategic asset, but it's not the answer. The humans, like your insights, your unique understanding of the market, that will always be, the answer.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. That's helpful. We had a question come into the chat from Arena, and I think you just answered it based on what you just said. Hey, John Miller. So one last question before we move on. So in the last 30 days alone, I've read, and maybe this post is a couple weeks old, but you talked about generating $1 million in pipeline, onboarding 25 customers, shipping 20 something major features, resolving 500 support tickets. All of that done by an agent? 4 different agents? 5 different? 10 different?
So no, all of that done by 3 humans.
3
Okay.
humans. Okay.
3 humans powered by AI agents supporting them. Okay.
Gotcha.
And it's a big difference in how we see things, but yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it's the same thing from another perspective. Yeah, I run a one-person go-to-market department. I generate $1.5 million, in pipeline every month, just, without any marketing spend, marketing team, SDR support, nothing. I take care of the entire process from demand generation to actually pipeline generation to converting that into revenues, onboarding, and success, etc. And I couldn't have done it without kind of like the agentic swarm that I've built to support me, all the way from monitoring LinkedIn interactions with my posts, monitoring connection requests that people sent me, monitoring our website visitors, monitoring and actually analyzing the request access submissions, helping me with the calls, all the funnel that I've just mentioned. I have agents that are supporting with my efforts that I could just focus on scaling relationships and intimacy without all the hassle that is required to do around it.
Gotcha. I love that. Yeah, the way that was a good clarification. I appreciate the redirect there on humans using the support of all these agents around them. I think that that makes a ton of sense. I know we're coming up on time. There are a couple more questions in the chat, which I encourage you to check out maybe, but a lot of questions about CDP, about limitations on first party data, about traditional like AI on SaaS versus truly a real agentic model. So just pointing those out. We appreciate the questions coming in, but I want to be respectful of our time. So Julia, how are we doing?
Such a treat. Thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you so much, Amos. What's the best way to support you for
Amos.
everyone watching?
Hey,
And
Hey, John. Good luck, guys.
Yeah, good luck. Thanks so much, Amos. I enjoyed the chat.
Me too, Kelly. It was a pleasure. Bye, guys.